Hello, good morning. I hope that everybody is well. Another week has rolled round. It's hard to think that, we're way past the middle of September and heading towards October. The year, such an odd one, it really is. But anyway, this week I've had a lovely week. I've taken quite a bit of time off work and I've enjoyed the late Indian summer that the UK has been experiencing. Bertie Boo and I have got some fabulous walks in this week. Now, yesterday, a friend of mine who's not a needleworker, her and her family went through all the entries that we had to win this sweet little sewing station, a teddy bear sewing station. And to enter the giveaway for this station, you had to suggest a name for the little teddy bear with the red dicky bow. And the teddy bear was a male teddy bear. And we had some fabulous entries. I was very, very grateful that I wasn't going to decide on a winner. So my friend with her husband and her children spent yesterday going through the entries, and they said they had great fun doing it, and they said it was very, very hard to pick a winner, and there was two that it came down to after much family debate, and they said it got quite heated between the final two. The winner was not unanimous, it was a majority vote. And I'm very pleased to say that this teddy bear is now known as Bostock. And let me just turn up the messages my friend sent me. Just a mo. They loved Theodore, by the way. That was another name that was a contender. And Gabriel, they liked that. But the winner was Bostock, and it was Vicky Marston. And Vicky said, I say Bostock the bear after Jane Bostock, whose sampler is the earliest one known with a stitcher's name. So, Vicky, if you will email me on the Hands Across the Sea Samplers contact page, your name, address and telephone number, I will get Bostock the bear off to you in the post. Now, because there was another name that my friend and her family really, really loved, and this name lost out by one vote, we've decided to create a second prize. And though we can't offer another sewing station, I am going to offer a chart, and it's a chart with that's a little bit unusual, and that's going to the Impatient Stitcher. And the Impatient Stitcher said, my husband is Scottish and I named this sweet teddy bear Artio, who is a bear goddess in Celtic mythology. Although this is a name for a goddess and the teddy bear is a male teddy bear, I think Artio is a gender neutral name. So the Impatient Stitcher, if you will email me your name, address and telephone number, I'm going to send to you a booklet for Anne Forfeit. Anne is a beautiful sampler, and Anne was the very first sampler that I reproduced. She was not the first one we published, but it was the first one that I reproduced. And this booklet is slightly unusual because it is a bound copy of the booklet. It feels a little bit different in the hand as well. Why I have an odd copy of a bound booklet is before lockdown my printer invested in some new machinery that binds booklets rather than staples them, and he asked me if he could use some of our booklets to run through his machine, getting used to how it operated. So about a week ago, he contacted me and he said, Lisa, I've got these booklets. He said, I don't need them. Would you like to have them? I said, yes, please send them along. So Impatient Stitcher, this is only one of 5 bound copies of Anne Forfeit, and that's coming to you. Okie dokie, what else has happened this week? Well, I had a little bit of shopping, and it's funny how you find things. I was ordering some cellophane bags. Our booklets get packed into these cellophane bags to keep them pristine for you. And because of COVID, the size I wanted for my booklets, I had great trouble finding them. My normal supplier was out of stock and they didn't know when they were going to have this particular size back in stock. So I went off hunting through companies that produce cellophane bags, and I came across a company called Cello Express Bags, and they had some scissors on their website. So I thought, oh well, let's order them and see what they're like. Now they are inexpensive scissors, and you know, they are very much everyday scissors. They are sharp and they've got a good point on them. They sold them because they're not a scissor company, they were selling them not by name but by type, and there's type 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6, I believe. So there's no name I can give you other than that these are rose gold, and they are type, not rose gold, they're red copper, sorry. And they're type 3, and they were £9.49. I didn't order all the designs, but there was another design that I thought, that looks quite nice. So I ordered type 1, and this was in antique gold. And there they are. I think these are nicer than these. These feel hollow, they don't feel as if they have a lot of weight to them, but these, they felt more substantial, sturdier almost. But you know, they're not expensive. The red copper was £9.49 and the antique gold was £8.99, and that's from Cello Express Bags. They're great for everyday use. And I go through a lot of everyday scissors. My scissors disappear. If ever my armchair that I sit in to stitch has had its day and it goes off to be disposed of, I must open up the back, because there's going to be loads of scissors down there. You won't find any change, but you will find scissors in my chair. Now what else came this week? I had some threads come from Weeks Dye Works, and although we normally only reproduce using Auvera Soie silks, a few weeks ago I showed a sampler by Alice Williams from 1881 that was a sampler that was stitched with over-dyed wool. So we're reproducing Alice with over-dyed threads, and it's really hard reproducing a sampler with variegated colours, because you need to get to be a real true reproduction, you need to have the light and the dark shade of a colour in the right place, and that's proving difficult. It means that you know, when you use a variegated thread, you need to get the dark and the light in the right place. So that means that you have to fussy cut these threads, my model stitcher who's stitching Alice is being very patient and really trying to get the dark and the light shades in the right places. I don't think that you can truly reproduce a sampler that was originally stitched with variegated threads. It's proving to be very, very difficult, not to chart the sampler, but to get the dark and the light and the way that the shades change in the right way. So what we've decided to do with Alice, we're going to stitch her 3 times using different variegated threads, and we're going to do a wool version as well because the original sampler was stitched in wool. Alice Williams was the sampler that had the verse on, "Idleness is the thief of time." It's a darling sampler. So anyway, I had these threads come this week, and they are some beautiful colours from Weeks. Let me put my glasses on. What did I do with my glasses? Here they are. Glasses are like scissors, they're always disappearing. So, that's Grasshopper. And that's Sky. Very lovely, delicate shades of blue. It's almost like a lilac-y blue in that one. And this is a beautiful, soft, soft variation of colours in beige. Mocha. Shepherd's blue. You can see sunsets here sometimes when, you know, God's taken his paintbrush to the sky and you can see those colours. This is nice. Plum. Beautiful shades in that. Moss is lovely. I really like moss. That lime green is quite sort of mouth-watering. Cayenne. Monkey grass. I love the names. I wonder how they come up with some of these names. Blue heron. Very delicate shades of blue. Very pretty. Michael's Navy. Now there must be a story behind the name Michael's Navy. This is mouth-watering and it's Watermelon Punch. Great name for this colour. A very sort of tutti-frutti colour. Eggplant. Some really rich shades in that one. And then we have Dirt Road. So those are the over-dyed threads that came this week, and I hope that it won't be too long before we're able to release Alice, all 3 versions of Alice. We're going to use some Weeks dye work colours, some Gentle Arts threads, and we're going to use some over-dyed wool thread as well. It'll be very new, sort of interesting to see the 3 versions and compare it to the original. So that's something that we're learning from, and we're going to share that experience with you. Now, I also had a linen delivery come this week. I'm very, very anxious to build up a really good stash of linen and silks. In the UK, our COVID cases are surging. There are restrictions of, we're not allowed to gather more than 6 people inside or outside, and there are many areas of the country that are in lockdown, and there is talk about the whole country being locked down again, and I don't want to spend the winter without my needlework. And it was surprising how quickly my supplies did dwindle in the original lockdown, because it's not only myself that I use in linen and silks, but it's our model stitchers as well. The good thing is I've got many, many antique samplers to chart, so we won't run out of samplers to reproduce. We just need the supplies to stitch them. So this week from Ducas, ex-Duke Designs, I received 3 different colours. The first one is baby sheep. Now, I've shown you old sheep before, and old sheep is a sort of slightly dirtier, deeper, more aged version of baby sheep. Now, baby sheep is, let's try and get close to this camera. Can you just see there's just a little bit of some veins running through it, which gives it an aged look. That's a pretty colour, it's a delicate colour. And that is on 40 count. And then another sample I had was Autumn Gold, and that's again on 40 count. There are some veins of deeper colour running through this, but it's not very vintage, but it is a lovely colour. A little bit of vintage in, like I suppose it will vary on each piece that she dyes, how much mottling there is. I know that we call it a Marmite. You either love it or hate it. Some needleworkers, they really love to stitch on linen that's been sort of dirtied up, aged, and others like their linen to be pristine. Now, this is fabulous. This is 46 count and 56 count. It's all the same colour. It's marbled khaki, not marbled pointer, which I showed last week. This is marbled pointer, and the 56 count and the 46 count has actually dyed up very much the same. Normally there's a variation between the counts because the different counts of linen absorb the dye in different ways, but this batch is, it's the same colour. And this is fabulous for reproduction samplers. This colour of linen matches so many antique samplers, and it's being dirtied up considerably. So, you either love this effect or you hate it, but beautiful colour. And you will see this being used by hands across the sea samplers. I've ordered 4 yards in total. Really nice. And with this one, when I showed the marble pointer last week, the one side was far less mottled than the other side, but on this linen it's come out the same both sides. Very, very nice colour. Looking forward to working with this linen. Okay, so what else came this week? A new sampler, well, an old sampler, a new antique sampler came this week. Now I have a soft spot for Bristol orphanage samplers. Hands Across the Sea samplers have published 3 Bristol orphanage samplers to date. We have Eliza Johnson, who has been so popular. She's a small sampler. She's a great one if you've not stitched a Bristol before. All of these samples I'm going to show you, they are just cross-stitch over 2 threads. There's something very sort of therapeutic about working a Bristol sampler. Using one colour, it makes them great travel projects, or projects where maybe your concentration isn't at its greatest. That's Louisa. Then the second Bristol orphanage sampler we reproduced was Harriet Salt, and Harriet is a magnificent, imposing Bristol sampler. I really enjoyed stitching Harriet. And then the third one we reproduced was Mary 395. Sweet Mary, she didn't put her surname on the sampler, she just identified herself by her bed number, which was 395. This sampler actually belongs to Claudia Dutcher Kitzler of Dutch Street Designs, and Claudia very kindly allowed me to reproduce Mary, and she also very kindly allowed me to reproduce the Pinconell sisters. And this is a very unusual Bristol in as much as two sisters stitched on the same sampler. And this one hasn't been released yet. It was due to be used for a workshop, but the workshop can't go ahead because I'm not able to fly to the States because of COVID. So we're going to be releasing this sampler probably before the year is out, and what we've decided, as we have 3 Bristols in printed booklet format, this sampler is going to be released as a PDF. There are people who can't or are unable to access our printed booklets because of where they live in the world. It's very difficult to ship to some parts of the world. We have a lot of needle workers who live in South Africa, and you just can't ship to South Africa, even if you, even when you courier items to South Africa, it's no guarantee that the recipient will receive their order. So we've decided this one's going to be in a PDF format. But this week another Bristol Orphanage sampler came, and again, because it's important to me that these videos educate as well, that we all learn from them, I'm going to show you this sampler. Here is Mary Hilliar. And Mary stitched her sampler in 1867, or she finished her sampler in 1867, and she is delightful. Now, she looks very small, but these samplers are stitched on the really, really high count linen. I don't think the camera will permit me to go in close enough without losing crispness for you to see that, but I can tell you, because I've calculated it, that the width of this sampler, it starts at 270 stitches, and by the time we get down to this row, it's gone up to a stitch count of 280. I haven't worked my way down through the sampler yet to calculate the length of the sampler. These little girls, they must have stitched under, it must have been a lot of pressure on them stitching on such high count, and you see in every one that's on this high count linen that they do miscount their stitches, so that indicates to me that they struggled to work on these high counts. This is probably close to 80 count. It was quite amazing what they had to stitch on. So here we have Mary Hilliar, and she will probably be released towards the end of next year, and I want you to be able to see the back of the sampler as well. Now, the previous owner removed this sampler off a board, or I should say that this is how it came from the previous owner. This sampler needs to be conserved. All of this needs to be removed, but you need somebody who is an expert to do that. Otherwise, you could end up ruining the sampler, and these are far, far too precious to do that. These samplers, they always get me in my heart. To be an orphan, no parents, so frightening, especially in those times. The children that ended up in the Mueller homes were the more fortunate orphans, if you can call an orphan fortunate. George Mueller was such a good man. He really, really was. If I put this here, you can see, although this is not the same sampler, you can see what a lovely match this linen is for Bristol Orphanage samplers. And this linen I can't remember what it was. I'll have to look back on my notes, but I think we'll be using this linen when we come to stitch this sampler. I'm not going to be stitching this Bristol. As soon as my model stitchers knew that I purchased a Bristol, they all wanted to stitch it. But this one's going to be stitched in Texas. What else? Last weekend, our Sampler Years, which is a group on Facebook, and if you are on Facebook and you do not belong to the group, it's a great group. It was a group that I set up with Krista Gramer, and Krista's very much the face of the group these days. Krista does a lot of work running the group. The weekend theme for last weekend was band samplers, and I think that it was a great theme because a lot of needleworkers could see the beauty of band samplers as people were posting the samplers they had stitched on. And I had a few emails from people asking about band samplers and asking me to recommend a band sampler for them to stitch their first one. And there was two that I was suggesting to people. Now, about a fortnight ago, we released Anne Borrett. And Anne is a stunning, stunning band sampler. The model was stitched on 40 count. And though this model was stitched reversibly, this sampler could be stitched with cross stitch instead of Montenegrin stitch. You know, you could stitch this sampler very easily, non-reversibly, substituting the stitches, and it's only a small sampler. There are really only 3 bands plus the row with the name, so that would be a small sampler for you if you wanted to stitch a band sampler. But the sampler that I really think is a great one if you want to get stuck into an extremely beautiful band sampler is Mary Carter. Now, Alana, who stitched the model of Mary Carter, did a fabulous job, you know, stitching the model, but Alana did not stitch the sampler reversibly. Although Mary used stitches that were reversible, she herself did not aim for a reversible finish. She carried her threads on the back. And Mary's sampler, the beauty in her sampler, what makes it so outstanding is Mary's use of colour and the patterns that she stitched. Some of the patterns on this sampler are so unique and so pretty and delicate and feminine that the skill was in her design, in the patterns and the colour, not necessarily the needlework. So this is a relatively straightforward band sampler to stitch. And you could, if you want to take this down to the most basic, you could stitch this with cross stitch over 2 threads, a very small amount over 1 thread, and it is only a very small amount, Algerian eyelets, double running stitch and Irish stitch and rice stitch and satin stitch. Now, Irish stitch you may know as Bargello, and that is just straight stitches over 4 threads worked in a zigzag, and the beauty is created by the alternating colours through the zigzag. This little girl did so much through the shape. So if we look at this band, this is all satin stitch, and these little grey lines just show you where the satin stitch stops and starts, and Algerian eyelets and more satin stitch. You can do so much with Mary Carter using relatively easy stitches. So my recommendation, if you would like to stitch a band sampler, and it's going to be your first one. Mary Carter or Anne Borrett will both be great choices. And the other thing is, in this time of thread shortages, and you know, it is difficult getting silks at the moment. Anne Borrett and Mary Carter, the kits for these samplers are readily available. They are in stock, so you can proceed with these samplers. Okay, so what else? Oh, the other bit of news I had this week was about Eliza Johnson. So this is Eliza, and she has been so popular. So many needleworkers have ordered her booklet. Eliza has some beautiful colours and some gorgeous motifs that are quite different. Eliza was reproduced and stitched by Sandra, and we felt that because this was an Australian reproduction of a British sampler, that the fact that this was reproduced and stitched in Australia, that it should go to Australia to go on display so that Australian stitchers can enjoy Eliza. So Eliza tomorrow is being packed up and is being shipped to a Stitching Time in Tasmania in Australia. And Carolyn, who is a Stitching Time is a well-established needlework store, but Marianne, who was the store owner, retired at the beginning of last year, and Carolyn took the store over. And Carolyn, I hear some wonderful things about a Stitching Time. She's really working very, very hard to provide a wonderful store for Australian needleworkers, and Carolyn stocks a wonderful range of linen, and she stocks Auvert soie silks. I'm sorry about that. I had a low battery sign flash up on the screen. Right, let me get back to what the point I was saying. I just had to plug my iPad in. Carolyn messaged me during the week to say that she had chosen Eliza Johnson for her store's Stitch Along for 2021. And let me just bring it up and I'll let you know what Carolyn said to me. So the Stitch Along is starting on January the 2nd, 2021, and there is a Facebook group that has been set up, and Carolyn is going to host a stitching in the store every second Saturday afternoon throughout 2021, and she is also going to have a video stitching once a month, and everybody is welcome to join in. You don't have to have purchased your supplies through Carolyn, but if you do purchase your supplies, Carolyn has got some special offers available for the kit, and it's probably best if you liaise with Carolyn over the offers that she has. And you know, in particular for Australian stitchers, you can kit up Eliza from Carolyn because she uses the she does stock the Auvert soie silks. It's always great fun participating in a Stitch Along. It's a great way to make friends. Krista Gramer just stitching along, and Michelle Moulon White from Mill on the Floss, and myself, we really got to know each other through a Stitch Along that we did many years ago, and we have been very close friends since then. It's a great way for meeting other needleworkers, and it's great to stitch in company. So if you live in the area of the store, you can go into the stitch-ins. in Tasmania, they're not really affected by COVID, so they have, they don't have the restrictions that we have in the UK. And Caroline, for Worldwide Stitchers, is going to have the video stitching once a month as well. Is there anything else this week? There probably is, and I've probably forgotten. But it'll keep until next week. So that just leaves me to say, I hope that you have a very good week ahead, and stay safe and stay well. Until the next time, bye-bye.